Oh, hey, there's actually someone here. Hello, person. So yeah, uh, I'd just like to say hi. I'm Kate Compton. I'm streaming for the first time in, gosh, a really long time, probably about a year and a half. Told myself I was going to stream continuously during the pandemic, but that's what happens during the pandemic is you attempt to do things and then you don't. So today, I was going to play around with something that I've been intending to make for a while. So this is a project that I kind of brainstormed while talking to Lauren Gahn, who's, I'm mispronouncing her name, I think, but she is a linguist, one half of the Lingthusiasm podcast with Gretchen McCulloch, and Lauren's specialty in linguistics, well, probably has several from listening to Lingthusiasm, but one of her many specialties is she's really into gesture, and so like um, how do people make sort of communication with their hands? And she mentioned that one of the things that's like particularly hard about that is that it's really hard to get good data. So like like if we have linguistic stuff, we can say like, okay, we can scrape Twitter for how are people using language. We can like scrape web pages. We can like read books. We can have video recordings of people using language, and we have really good annotation systems for like, okay, this is how language happens. But she said that this is not the case with gesture, where even just like being able to record gesture is often difficult. So I thought it would be kind of neat to explore a topic that I've been interested in for a while, which is the use of sort of labeling games and Jackbox style games to create something where one user makes a gesture and the other user tries to label it. So this is a pattern that I've seen in a lot of different things. I've been looking at some of Kathleen Toots' work. She had a really great, well, had a series of great works on like how do you get casual users to be creative in a way that generates data. So it's this kind of like harmonious synthesis between users getting to be creative and being able to express themselves and feel like they're not just like a data source. They feel like they're actually like making stuff, but then also have them be making something that is of like scientific and interesting value as a larger research project. And very interestingly, a lot of these, and so I've started like making a list of as many of these as I can find. A lot of these are what I would call, or almost all of these are what I would call labeling games. So what is a labeling game? This is a game, I think one of the first ones that I ran into was on Google. Let's see, I think it was Google. It was one, I forget what it was called, but it was basically Google wanted to label images. And so they could say like, okay, well, we're going to have just like one user label a bunch of images, but you don't know if that user is going to be malicious in some way. And also it's not that fun to just like kind of sit there and manually enter in labels. So they said instead, and this ended up kind of setting the theme for a lot of future work, was let's have two users. So these users are going to play a game where they're not allowed to talk to each other. And this is a common feature of labeling games. Is like you're not allowed to communicate on normal channels. The only communication you're allowed to have is one person, well, like either you send the original media or you send different labels back and forth. So it's like, oh, what labels would you apply to this image? So the way that this game, the image labeling game worked was both users would be presented with the same image, but you would want to have the number of labels that they would both apply to that image. You only got points for a label that the other person applied, and I think you got kind of extra points if the label was rare. So if I showed you a picture of a man, and they both said, okay, man, suit, tie, white, old, tall, facing sideways, things like that. And if they said Jimmy Carter, and they both agreed that that was Jimmy Carter, that would actually be a very high value label. And so, yeah, this is kind of one of the archetypical ones of like, okay, user has been given an image and they're trying to create labels for it. So labels are the media that they're creating. Or like they're given the media and then they're trying to label it. And then there's also things like Quiplash and Pictionary, where the users are given the label, say like Jimmy Carter, and they have to try to create media around that such that another player would correctly label that as Jimmy Carter. So you can see how the two things that are going on here are like you have media that people are creating, or like you have kind of a maybe this the like I need like semiotics here. I have like a semiotic object that people are trying to label. I have the labels that people are trying to give to that, and like are the users allowed to like select their own labels? Are they selecting from among a group of labels? Kathleen Toot's face quiz project had 3 labels, and those 3 labels were actually just 3 different meme images, and the user was given 1 out of 3 and told to like make the grumpy cat face, and then actually they chose from the 3 available ones, tried to make the grumpy cat face, and then the AI was trying to figure out the correct label of the media face that they were making, and in that case the labels were the memes. The media that was being constructed was the face. So yeah, I thought it would be kind of interesting to like just for my own sake, and again to kind of get some practice streaming. Got this like sweet new setup with a microphone and everything, and apparently the microphone is actually capturing stuff. Anyway, I thought it'd be kind of fun to like try out the new setup and also get some practice in on working with like trying to make my own labeling game, getting some more practice with handsfree.js, which does hand tracking, and then also hopefully getting a little bit of practice with peer.js, which does peer-to-peer communication just via like normal web pages, because I really like Firebase, but I'm also kind of looking kind of at the long term. Can I break up with Firebase and have completely serverless peer-to-peer social network games? So yeah, hopefully. Let's see. I'll just move things off to the side here so I can see my chat. I can see my OBS. Yeah, so hopefully you should be able to see like my OBS and stuff as well. Actually, I'm gonna quickly take a look at Discord and see if like any of my friends are joining from Discord. But you can't see Discord because you're on the internet. Haha. Maybe. Maybe people will show up, maybe they won't. Anyway, live stream to nobody is just fine. So yeah, so this is a webpage that I just made. I actually made it by copying another webpage. It's been a really long time since I wrote my own HTML. And the way that this is set up is I have a title, I have some very vague CSS styling, I'll have some view, which I'll use later. I have utilities, which is just basically like some random text generation stuff that I use to test stuff out. And then I have app.js. And then I have some places to put things. So hopefully I can say like, okay, in here, if I say console, actually this should be saying I am lost in the echo here. So here I am, like this thing is actually running. So the first thing I can do is say like, okay, let's make a game, or let's have some a view object to show the game. So we can have view, let's see, new view. I always forget how hard it is to code while live streaming. Okay, so I've got view, I've got a template object, and template is just some HTML that view is going to paste in where I've ever asked it to. So I can say a view, there's going to be a game here. And then I'll also need to give it an element of where it's going to put that data, where it's going to put that div, and I'm going to put it in the div with ID of section 0. This layout is borrowed from a more complicated website that I've been making. Yay, and we can see that in fact it says game here, so this is cool. This other window down here is, this is a duplicate of the same window, so if I get multiplayer stuff working, we can watch like information going from one to the other. So yeah, okay, so I've got a game, now I should actually have a game. So what if we just say like, we won't worry about hand tracking for the moment, we're going to make a little labeling game where the user, let's say like the, actually I know how to do this, we can have the user select from a number of emoji, and then we can say like, okay, the user has, like the other player has to select which emoji they're talking about, and maybe the original user is not allowed to like describe the emoji, or like, maybe, yeah, so one player, so let's see, so there's a deck of emoji that player 1 chooses from. Let's call them the host of this round. So the host of this round And this is kind of like, Cards Against Humanity, the person who's picking out their favorite, or Apples to Apples, the person who's picking out their favorite, or in Pictionary, the person who's drawing. So the person who's like, okay, I'm going to select the correct label out of a deck of labels. So, or I'm going to set the label for this round. So they're going to set the label, and then the sort of guests, so if they're the host and the other players are the guests, then the guests are going to say, okay, well, of these, like, of this deck, can I select the correct label? So we're having like a limited set of things. So maybe the first thing to do is to create a game class. And I'll just go keep it all in the same. So class, game. And a game has a constructor, I think. I've been switching between JavaScript and Python a lot lately. So how about I have a game that has a constructor, and it has this dot rounds. It has some number of rounds. It has this dot players. And we may be representing players in lots of different ways, but we'll decide that later. All right, so what if I say, okay, hey, when I start this view template, let's create some data. Oh, and actually, I will make an app object. This is a technique that I often use, is like I have one app object, and then I can put a lot of different stuff in that app object. So my app object can contain my current game, and it can contain whatever other like useful things I might need. So let's create a new game. Let's see if this runs. Oh, can't access game before initialization. This is what I get for not putting it in its own file. That in here, and then I'll import app.game before app.js. Do things in the proper order. Alright, hopefully I've got a game, but let's find out. Maybe I'll actually give this game a title. This is when I start using my utilities.js stuff, because I like to... Actually, I don't have utilities in here. Let me copy and paste. And of course, I didn't share my folders. I'm trying out like a not sharing the whole desktop thing for security purposes. Let's see if that works. All right, but hopefully you should now see my utilities class, and this has words and then a bunch of stuff like get random sentence. So I can have, what is it, get title? Get random title, yeah. Words.get random title will give me a random title for a game. Words.get random title. So hopefully this will create a new title for this game. And then when I say game, I can instead say, div game. Game.title. Oh, and I don't have currently access to this game yet, so let me add access to game, or actually I'll add access to app, I suppose. So in Vue you do that by creating a data object, and anything that's in the data object Vue has access to. So app is equal to app. That doesn't seem very exciting, but what it really does is gives Vue access to an app object, which is going to be the same as my app here. Then I can say app.game.title. Aha! And we have our first game title, which is Become Your Crimson Mug. And we can see that, like, as I refresh the game, I have a lot of different games. So I can actually say, like, maybe I'll create a function in app that is a new game. And this sets, let's see, app.game. Let's see. Actually, I won't even need it here. I can have it just in the game object. So I can say, okay, when I restart this game, we'll set the title to something else. And we will reinitialize the rounds and reinitialize the players. And then I can say, instead of constructor, I can say this.restart. So whenever I start this, it'll just kind of refresh itself. Okay, so I've got a game with a constructor and a restart. So hopefully, if I make a button that allows me to restart the game, And the button won't currently do anything, but if I say, when you click this button, so this is a shorthand for Vue, just saying like, set the click handler for this button. So let's see, my click handler will be app.game.restart. Is that what I called it? Yeah, restart. And I actually want to call this function. I'm teaching a lot of intro CS, and one thing that they often have trouble with is the difference between a function and calling a function. So it's best if I don't start forgetting to put my parentheses around it. Look, our grumpy fork. Yep, so now we have a generator for new games. So next I might want to start adding some rounds. So I can say maybe like start round. So every time we start a round, what should we do? Let's create a round object. Let's say my round number is this.rounds. Dot length. So the length of my rounds plus 1. So we'll do this kind of like normal human style and not CS style. We'll start at 1, so we won't have a round 0 to make normal players feel comfortable. And let's say we have our host, which will be this.players. We'll just always start with our host as this.players 0, which is going to be undefined for the moment because we don't have any players, but that's fine. I just want to see our rounds go up. And then I will add this to our rounds. This.rounds.push round. All right. So I don't have a way to start a round yet, so let's go ahead and add a button that says like start a new round. And this again can just kind of be like I'm building this up in small parts that I can test each time. So like I'm not trying to play the whole game at once. I'm just saying, okay, well, what if I'm not even going to figure out what goes on in a round yet. I'm just going to create a new round. What is it? Start round? Start round. So I can start mashing that. And maybe I'll say console.log new round. All right, we can see we've got some rounds increasing. And then maybe I want to start displaying my rounds. So maybe this will all be kind of in my header. I've been convinced that I should use more, semantic HTML, which are things like headers rather than divs, because it's better for screen readers, but I'm not sure if I'm overdoing it, like having headers for everything that's even kind of remotely header-like. But I guess we'll find out. All right, so, and then I'll have a contents. I don't know if there's a good semantic HTML for contents. All right, so here's my contents, and I will make a table. So I'll make a table of all my rounds. How does that sound? Make a row. Make some data for that row. Actually, I don't even know what goes in the round, what goes in the table yet. But I'll say, let's see, v4 round in app.game.rounds. And that I don't even know what's going on yet, so I'm just gonna like have it print out round. All right. Oops. So header. I'm reusing some old some old CSS here. Why is this header not going all the way across the screen? App.sections. Oh. Let's see. How about app? Oh, maybe app.main section. That sounds good. There we go. Okay, so now I have, here is my header, I have the title, I have some buttons. I'll put both of those buttons in a little div off by themselves so they kind of like hang out together. There we go. So I have my utilities there, and you can see that in fact I have some rounds, and the numbers of the rounds are going up. All right, that sounds good. Maybe the next thing I should do is create a player, so I can have like a couple of players. All right, how would I do that? Let's see. So each player will want to have their own ID because spoilers for the way that Pure.js works, and a number of other like Firebase style things as well, is that each player is referred to by a unique identifier. Or rather, in Pure.js, each peer is referred to by a unique identifier. So I have kind of like, I say like, oh, my code name is cat, your code name is dog. Cat is trying to connect to dog, and the central server says, well, anybody is allowed to declare themselves to be any identifier. Anybody is allowed to ask for any identifier. But I'm going to use that information to try to like connect up people, kind of security through obscurity. Like when you're creating a Jackbox room, you could have like a Jackbox room that anybody on the earth can join, which is true, but they won't know to join that room unless they have the code. So again, we'll be kind of using security through obscurity here. So I might say, you know, maybe in app, I also have the player ID. And the player ID is, we will generate some random player ID for this player. How about, I'll use my random username generator. Get username, there we go. Just go ahead and start with my username is words.getRandomUser. And then I can say, maybe up here in my controls, alright, so how about I've got an input, and that input is a vmodel of, so vmodel basically links some data and an input value, so you can like, if you change one, it changes the other, and if you change the other, it changes the first. So basically just like kind of puts a pipe between an input value and some data. So if I set that to player ID, and actually it'll be app.player ID, hopefully this will show my current player ID. And there we go, we got Fleeny472. And if I restart, we got Shane1958. So you can see I've got an extremely realistic username generator going on here. Okay, so that'll give me my kind of player ID. And then I guess when we start the game, I want to go ahead and maybe when this is mounted, so I could have a button that's like start game, but because I'm going to start a game each time, I'm going to say like when this view element is mounted, console.log, I'm going to start the game. I'm going to put some emoji on there, because giving yourself emoji just feels real nice. I'm not doing my ASMR talk yet, but like, it's just really nice to give yourself emoji. Like, give yourself little treats in your console log. Oh, there we go. There's our emoji. So, okay, so I start the game, and maybe I want to go ahead and start a round. Or actually, before I start a round, I want this player to join. So, games are really hard to program because it turns out there's a lot of states in games. And so mostly when you think you're programming a game, it's like, oh, I'm going to program this game. It's going to be about skateboarding birds. It's going to be about dating your swords. It's going to be about like all sorts of really cool, interesting stuff. And then you find out that actually most of what you're doing in the game is deciding when you're in the mode where your bird is skateboarding, what happens when the UI is open, what happens when the UI shouldn't be open yet, what happens when they first open the game, and you don't want them to have immediately start their bird skateboarding. You want them to like click through a couple of different things so that like if they'd walked away from their computer when it was loading, they don't immediately like fall off a cliff. It's fine. But yeah, a lot of your life as a game developer is kind of navigating and representing these states that you're moving through. So this is, I haven't done this in a while, so this is me running into that. So okay, so I don't want to start my game right away, but I do want to add a player. So how about I app.game to add a player? And I could say, like, I could have more complicated ways of representing a player, but for the moment, a player is just going to be a player ID. Every player is a string. That's the object that we're using to represent a player. So game, add player. Console.log. Put a smiley face. And the player ID is going to join. Because we might have lots of different players. We might have players who are local and players who are across the internet. But for the most part, we've got some players. This dot players is equal dot push this dot player ID. So now we've got a player. Oop, no we don't. Player ID is not defined. App 49. App.player ID. This is like my my user's current ID. Nope. Game 26. Oh, this dot players dot push. All right, we've got Angry Indignator has just joined, but like it'd be kind of nice to see all our current players. So maybe we'll make another little table that is for all of our players. Notice that I'm just giving my tables a little label here. So for app.game.players, so I'm listing all of my rounds and I'm listing all of my players, and I'll just say just list their names. That's all we need right now. So we've got some players. I wonder why I have not added, game.players. There we go. Oh. Method player is not, for player in round players. There we go. All right, so we've got our first player right there. BSE335. All right, so we've got a player. Maybe I can create a virtual player. So we'll create ourselves some buddies, some little virtual buddies. And they won't, we'll switch these out later for players that are on other places around the internet. But for right now, we can do the same trick where we can say let's just get some usernames. Give me some random people. 4 var I equals 0, I is less than, let's say 3 buds. We'll have a 4-player game. That's kind of a nice, I could say just a 2-player game, but I think it's nice to start off thinking, what if I do this kind of multiplayer? What if I have one person who's broadcasting to a whole bunch of people that might be playing? I've recently been in a really wonderful residency program by the Open Source Software Tools for the Arts grant from CMU's Center for Creative Inquiry, headed by Golan. That has had a bunch of people doing open source tools for the arts. And one really interesting thing about that was there's one woman who did not start off technical. She's a professional dancer, professional ballerina, and during the quarantine, she was putting together a kit for dancers to basically have a Connect that they could set up. Other non-technical dancers set up this Connect kit, immediately begin streaming a live 3D broadcast to an audience. And it was really interesting because they were using Mozilla Hubs, and that was great because they could have so Mozilla Hubs is a 3D world that multiple people can join. And she was pretty excited about this because they could be wandering around this 3D performance live, but it was kind of a bummer because she mentioned that there's actually, you can only have about 30 people in this space, which I thought, gosh, that's kind of disappointing because as a performer, it's fine if you have a real world space and only 30 people can fit in because you're a fire code, but if these are just kind of 3D points in space and they're all watching you, kind of the performer should be able to broadcast a continuous pipe of information, and it shouldn't matter how many people subscribe to that pipe of information. So, I don't know, I guess there's maybe six folks watching. I can't actually see the number of viewers here, but so there's some number of people are watching this, but it doesn't matter whether it's 0 or it goes up to 3,000. It's kind of all the same to my computer. I'm just broadcasting. So I like to think of at least starting off, what would it be like to make this sort of labeling game where the host is we can play apples to apples with 1,000 people. What if I make something and 1,000 people are all trying to guess it at the same time? I think that would be pretty cool. When you're watching Jeopardy just on a normal broadcast television, yeah, there's 3 people who are playing in the room, but everybody else kind of across the world who is watching Jeopardy is also trying to play the labeling game. So I think broadcasting a labeling game could be kind of cool. So we'll try it with 4 players, with the assumption that we might want to have just like 1 other player, or we might want to have 3,000 players. So here's all our players. If I wanted to have like 300 players, wow, look at all these cool players. I should probably set this up so it scrolls. Yeah, so now I can scroll through all of my cool new friends that I've just made. Isn't it nice to be able to make friends with a computer? Okay, so, but we'll just think about the 3 people for right now. All right, so we've got our 3 friends, and maybe we will add a little star to any player that we are. So we can say, okay, here's a player, and then I'll add a span that is a star. This will be if the, let's see, if player is equal to app.playerID. So we have access to who our player ID, we have access to the player that we're looking at, and we can give a star to just me. So this is, I can tell that this first one is in fact me. All right, that sounds good. Maybe we should start some rounds and start playing a game. So once we've added all of our players, I could have a button that says start the round, but I kind of want to do this automatically because it's going to take me, like, I'm going to iterate a lot of times. It's always nice to kind of like slow, like stop any actions that you would have to perform every time you run your program, especially when you're just starting things out. So I can say, okay, well, we'll skip the button for now. I'll just say game.startRound. All right, game is, oh, app.game. There we go. Hello, Bleep Track. Among many people that I know only by their, like, Twitter handles. All right. So yeah, okay, so I've got my first round, and in fact, it has selected my first host. And I'm the first host. Isn't that exciting? We can figure out how to switch players later, but right now I can say, okay, well, what if I am the host? So what kind of UI should I have if I am the current host? So maybe I'll make myself a, let's see, so I've got players, I've got rounds. Maybe I want to have a place to show the current game. So I'll just make a, like, so these will be all the past rounds. And maybe I want to show my deck of choices. So as the host, I'm going to be picking out an emoji from all the emoji. And then people will have to decide which one I mean. All right, so I could say, like, I could make a randomly selected deck of all emoji. Or I could say, like, maybe they, well, actually, do I have a list of all emoji? Let's find out. Let me see what I've got. Emoji.json. I bet I have a list of emoji JSON in here. Yeah, heck yeah, I do. All right. What's in there? Yep, that is perfect. Okay. I will paste that so y'all can see it in a moment. Wahoo! Here we have a list of all the emoji! And also a bunch of, like, useful metadata that we can maybe use to build our game. So notice that we've got, like, keywords, angry face, mouth, mad, pouting, rage, red, etc. So I think this will be pretty useful. So if we say, okay, well, maybe I'm going to give you, and notice that here I have a JSON object. So JSON objects are really great because you can use them in JavaScript really easily. I'm not actually doing a local hosting thing right here. I'm just, like, dragging the HTML file directly into Chrome. This is really useful for me because I'm a teacher. So I teach a lot of students who are just starting out. And if you're just starting out telling people, like, hey, if you want to see your website, you're going to have to make a local host and you're going to have a local server. And they're like, what? And then if you have students who are on like Mac versus Windows, it's going to be a whole like darned thing. And so it's really nice to just be able to say like, hey, we're just starting out. What you're going to do is you're going to have an index.html file, and you're just going to find that in your hard drive, and you're going to drag it into Chrome, and it'll render fine. The trick there is that you're going to have all sorts of things where Chrome is not allowing you, for security reasons, to do cross-site loading of various assets. So like, oh no, you can't like make API requests, you can't load images in processing, and you can't load JSON. But that's not our problem, because we can say, what if I make a duplicate of this file? So save as. Like, I have a JSON file. That's fine for some people. What if I want just a emoji.js? Hey, now I've got emoji.js. Let me turn this into a valid JavaScript object. So I'll call this all. Let's make this a constant. I think emoji are very constant unless you're a certain web standards boards. So constant emoji.js. And I'll call it all emoji. There we go. Here's all of the emoji in the world as of the creation of this JSON object. So now let's say like, all right, we'll give our current player a selection of things that they can choose from. So let's say maybe for this round, I will say let's select some number of emoji. Let's see. So we've got all emoji. What was that? That's it's a list. What if I do something extremely dorky and I shuffle that list? Do I have shuffle already in utilities? I don't. Let's steal shuffle from GitHub. You can see how often I have to implement shuffle. Nope. Fisher Yates. Here we go. People seem to like the Durstenfeld shuffle. So I'm going to steal the Durstenfeld shuffle, and I'll dump that into my utilities file where all of my stuff that I need periodically goes. And I always try to save the Stack Overflow link of where I got it. Otherwise, I will never remember that this thing was from Stack Overflow. So if you paste in your link, not only do you know where everything came from, you can also search for HTTPS to remove all of the like possibly copyrighted code that you may have used to build your prototype. Alright, so now I've got shuffle array. Doesn't that sound like fun? So let us go ahead and shuffle our emoji. So I could just say, like, go through emoji and, like, pick some random ones, but the easiest way to do that without getting duplicate emoji is to shuffle them. And I'll just shuffle them in place because it's not like I'm actually using them for anything. No, that seems tacky. I'm going to make a copy, just in case I need the, like, actual, like, number of emoji later on. Shuffled is, let's see, so it's shuffle in place, so I'm going to want to make a copy of the emoji. So slice my emoji from 0 to whatever, and then shuffled emoji, let's shuffle that in place. So let's see what we've got in shuffled emoji. What if I take the first 10 emoji? Let's find out what's in here. Oop. All emojis not defined. Oh yeah, I need to actually include that. Let's see if I can increase the size of my Chrome window. Alright, cool. Yep. Alright, here we go. Let us add our emoji. Emoji.js. There we go. Hey look, we've got some emoji. Alright, we have selected we've selected the Western Sahara flag, Uzbekistan, a sandwich, a raised hand, a compass, a kissing face, etc. Good choice. So let's see. Now let's display, or like, let's, actually, we'll just say like those are our emoji for this round. So this is, we're going to call that our deck. So I'm kind of thinking through words about my ontology of labeling games. And so one of the words that I've been using is deck, of like, what if it's not an open space of any possible labels, but we've got a deck of possible labels. And they're trying to decide who's on their deck. Alright, so I'm going to say that this round.deck is equal to our shuffled emoji. actually going to be equal to a slice of the shuffled emoji. So now I can say, oh, look, this is what I get for printing out my whole round. Now I need to actually like do some sensible things about like how I'm displaying my round. So maybe I won't display the, actually, yeah, so maybe instead of a table, I'll do something a little more sophisticated. So I'll have a div that holds all of my rounds, and then a div that holds each round. You know what? Let's be classy about this. How about we create a view object that represents a round? So we'll have a view component. Call that game round. So what this does is this gives me access to a new HTML element that I can use anywhere I want that is going to be a game round. And that takes a property of a game round. Now I can say, oh, let's create a template for that. Make a div. All right, so here's our round. We can make a little header for it. We can print out our number. And that's all we'll do for the moment, just to see if it's working. So I can say, okay, for each round, I want you to please make a game round with the round, the current round, being equal to, let's see, round, but we'll say v for round in app.game.rounds. I bet I forgot a comma somewhere. There I did. Yep. Alright, so now I have my rounds, round 1. I'm going to remove that label. It's kind of superfluous now. Alright, so here's my players. We've got round 1. So now I might say, okay, well in round 1, some of the things that I might want in that are, I would like you to please print out all of the icons in my deck. So, let's see. We'll print those out as little divs, because I might have useful information in each one. So v4 emoji in round.deck. Maybe I'll call it option, because I might change this later. For each option in my deck, round.deck, well, we can print out option for now, and then we can be more sophisticated in a moment. All right, here we go. So here's all the rounds, or here's all the options that I've selected. And maybe instead of the option, I want to have the character, option.car. There we go. All right, here's all of our lovely little options. I think now it would be sensible to put those into kind of a nice little tile. So class equals tile. What do I currently have tile set to? Tile. All right, cool. I'll add a little bit of padding there. Yep, okay, so now I've got all of my options. These are the options that I can pick from if I am the host, and I'm going to decide which one is my selected thing. So I guess the first thing that I'm going to do as a host is make a choice. So maybe the first thing to do is to give the choice. Like, not everybody gets to select one of these. You only get to select one of these if you are the current host of this round. So maybe I will say, I'll give you instructions. Let's see. I will address you, the host. Hey host, please select the, is it target maybe? Maybe the target. So if we select the current target, let's see, select the target emoji. But I only want to see that if I am the current host. So if I am the current host, so if... Actually, I might have a lot of this. I'm going to create a computed property that is host. Computed properties are nice. They are implemented as functions on the computed object, but after you have them, you basically have a getter here, and then you can treat them just as regular old objects, or sorry, regular old values later on. So isHost will be true if, I could give them access to app, but I don't have to here. There's probably a reason that I might want to, but I'll just do this kind of lazy. App.playerID is equal to game. Oops. Actually, round.host. Yeah. Nope. There we go. Alright, so it is correctly telling me, the host, to select the target emoji. If I had said instead that the host is the second player, no. That should not be... Oh, how about I actually use that whole little isHost thing? VF isHost. Alright, round is not defined. Oh, this.round.host. Okay. Class main section. I'm not actually closing that. Oh, how about that? Close that one. Game round. Close that tag. Alright, that's looking better. Okay, so I don't have the instructions because I'm not the host. What happens if I am the host? There you go. Alright, so it's now my turn to select the target emoji. Now let me actually do that. So if I am the host, and I click one of the emoji, let's see. So if I click this, so add click, and I can start, I don't know what the right way to format view stuff is, so I often have it on its own line here. So if I click this, then I am going to set the, I'm going to select this emoji. I'll deal with what selecting the emoji means later. Or I'll even select the option. Oh, you know what these are? These are labels. So this is a potential label. No, I might be using labels in a couple of different ways. This is kind of all underbaked at the moment. So we'll just say options for the moment. So select option of this current option. What does that mean? Let's find out. Let's create a method. Alright, so we're going to select our option. And if we select our option, that means that this .round target, let's say target option, like this is what we're actually picking out, is option. So if I click on this, let's see, console.log, log your friends. Oh, and of course there's an object, option.car. Alright, hibiscus is the current option. So round.target is equal to that. Okay, so maybe I only want to have, or actually once this .round.target is selected, I want to display this differently. So I will make a class, a responsive class, a class that responds to whether or not this selection is our current round target. So is this the current round target? So this one will be, let's call it selected at the moment. Selected is equal to if round.target is equal to option. So So move that down here. So notice we have access to this option variable, and then we're comparing this current option to the round target. And if we do, then we're going to apply the selected class to it. So let's find out if that happens. So if I select this, baby bottle, does baby bottle currently, does not have, let's see, round.target is equal to option. Wonder why that's not running. Oh, you know what it is? This is a view thing. So I haven't told view that this.round.target exists. So if I say, hey view, round.target starts off with a value undefined, then it knows to watch this. So if we print it out round, we would notice that we have an observer on each property. And if the properties get added after it's observed, then it doesn't notice it. So it only has kind of one chance when it first gets access to this object to try to observe all of it. And so we better have all of our observable stuff added by that point. All right, so gosh, whatever the heck this is our new option. Hey, look, it's selected. So now you might want to draw this a little bit differently. How about tile.selected? If you have class tile and you are selected, let's give you a background color. Steel one. All right, so you can see which is my selected option. So if I, the host, have selected the t-shirt as my option. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So now I want to have, all right, so the host has selected a target emoji. Now I want to do this kind of thing where if you are the host, your job is now done, and now we're waiting for the other players to do a thing. This is the part that I hate about game programming. It's like, okay, we've got some stages that we're moving through. So maybe it would help if I notice which stage I'm at of each round. So the round, and actually maybe this is in game itself. So this dot round stage is equal to 0. So every time we start a round, we'll start the current stage of this round at 0. I never know what the right way to do this is, if I just have like a number that goes up, or if I have like, I don't know, it's hard to remember what these numbers mean. So, okay, so what if I say, let's see, so this dot round stage, stage round. Stage and round both mean the same thing. That's bugging me. Okay, so our mode for the round is 0. That means that this is the host selects the target. Then round 1 is the, let's see, the guests select. Okay, so let's see. So the host will select the target, and then the guests are trying to guess which one they picked. So maybe we will say at the moment that this is. You know what? I'm going to have. This is slightly silly, but I think it's going to help me to have an array of stages. Because that way, if I give them sensible names, then I can just refer to them by their sensible names. And if I add new stages in between stages, I won't have to go and go back and try to figure out who's referring to round 2 versus round 10. All right. Stages. All right, stage 1 is host select. Stage 2 is, we'll just say this will be a very basic game. So host select, you're not given any information as a new player or as the guest. You're just supposed to, like, this is a game about psychic tracking. Can you psychically guess which the host picked? Okay, so the host selects, then the guests select. And then I guess we do a reveal. That sounds good. Host selects, the guest selects, and we reveal the true answer. And we can decide when we want to move from guest selecting to revealing. So okay, we're going to start with host select, and that way we can say like, well, you know, if we are currently in this mode, then we want to have the, let's see, so this is the like host select UI, so maybe we can just have like different UI. So if app.game, oh wait, no, I've got my round. No. Maybe I want to have this on the round instead, because that way I can just like look at the current stage that the round is at. And then I can say this.round.mode. Yeah, that feels good. All right, this.round.mode is host select. All right, so if round.mode, I wish there were a better case structure in Vue. Maybe there is in Vue 3. Vue 3 has gotten more complicated though, so I don't want to do it yet. Let's see, if round mode is equal to host select, then I want to show this stuff. Okay, so we're going to show that if that's true. So select the target. Here are my target options. Sounds good. Nope. Cannot set property mode of undefined. Oh no. Game 28. This.round.push. Oh, this.round. I need to get my current round. So this.round. Let's see. Can I do an accessor function? Can I do like a current? Yeah, I can do a get. So what if I do, what if I can just say game.round for our current round? Get round. It's a function that returns this.rounds, all of my rounds, this.rounds.length -1. So get the last one. So now I should be able to say like, hey, this.rounds.push round and this.round.mode is host select. Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay. I also want to just go ahead and add, in addition to my round number, what's the ultra detail? This is just a way of displaying some small text in a bright color, so I can remember it but not be overwhelmed by it. All right. And this is round.mode. There you can see we are currently in host select mode. So if I change that, we should be able to see it change. Okay. Cool. Okay, so we got our host, we got our select. The host has selected the thing, and then maybe when the host has selected the thing, we want to go on to the next round. So maybe I will have that just call the select option on the round. I wonder if round should be an object. I kind of think it should, because then I can put methods on it. Okay, so when you create a round, it's got a number, it's got a host, and it's got some targets. Okay. Number, host, and see, so this dot target is equal to undefined. This dot number is number. This dot host is host. And the select target just sets this dot target to target. And now I can say also my round, I start off with that this dot deck. Okay. Then this dot round dot mode, we start off as a host select mode. So this kind of offloads a lot of this work to the round object itself. Can't believe that worked. All right. Okay, so we've got our players and we've got our host and app32. Yep. When we select our option, I don't even need to have this method anymore. I can just call that directly on the round object. So when I select this round, round dot select target. Okay, so it selects the target, and then I can move on to the next stage. Game, round. When you've selected the target, please set this dot mode, guest select. All right, so if I pick this thing, now we're in a different mode, and I no longer have my UI. Okay, so at this point I would want to start having like my second guest also be seeing this game. So this is when things start to get hard. Let's think about how to do this. Okay, so I could say maybe for each player I can show this locally. I could also decide that this is the time when I want to start playing with peer.js, because now I want to say like, okay, the player selects something and then we're in the next round and all the other users should be seeing something. So I don't know, let's try this out. Let us fuck around and find out. All right, so yeah, we're gonna pause the construction of the game at the moment, and I want to have a separate player who's able to log in, able to connect to this and say like, I also wish to join this game. And unfortunately, this always melts, like, networking melts my brain. Networking melts everyone's brain. You never have a network person who is not deeply damaged by the fact that they do networking. All right, so I'm gonna have I've got my whiteboard here. Let me know if my voice gets annoying. I'm trying out different voices for streaming. I have a lot of like vocal fry normally, so I'm trying to like figure out different like ways to save my voice, because the vocal fry is actually kind of damaging to my voice over time. So I'm trying out like a nice little like almost like super femme Bob Ross murmur here. See if it's like more pleasing to the viewers, and also if it makes my voice last a bit longer. Okay. Also, it causes me to speak a little slower, and I find that my pacing changes as I take on different characters. Alright, so I've got a local player ID, and then I've got a remote player ID, and the host player is going to start the game. So the host of the game is different than the host of the round. So the player who hosts the game is going to create the game, like initialize the game, create, like make the room, and then other players are going to see that ID and say, oh yes, I wish to join Norton Joyful's game. So maybe we'll just say like the room that you're joining is Norton Joyful. Everyone is allowed to basically try to connect to Norton Joyful, and we'll see if that works. Okay, so now I have to remember where I put peer.js documentation. Here we go. Alright, so pure.js documentation. Let's make an IO file. I'm very good at Vue, and I'm very good at like emoji JSON, and so this will be the part that is a little bit more rocky. Alright, io.js. We're going to create some input-output stuff. So maybe we'll give ourselves a couple of functions. So one function is, let's try just join room. And we'll give that an ID. So if I call this, this announces that I wish to join a room. Okay, so we're joining a room ID. I won't do anything. I'll just announce that I'm joining this room. And actually, maybe I won't initially create a game. Because I might not want to create a game. I might want to load someone else's game. Well, I guess, okay, so you come in, and your choices on this app are either I wish to create a game, or I wish to join someone else's game. So I can say that for my game, maybe we don't show the game yet, so this is all the game content. If app.game. And game doesn't start off as new game, it starts off as undefined. Alright. It's complaining that there's no title. That's fine. This all goes down now into... Actually, a lot of this stuff is game content. It's all tangled up, oh no. That's okay. These are all game buttons. This is all game stuff. Oh, maybe I can move all of... Yeah, I'll move all of the game UI. Yeah, so here's a bunch of game UI. All this game UI can move down here to the game... Like, this is the game playing board. There'll be nothing in the... Let's see. App 94. Where are we? Yeah. So we don't start a game yet. This will be in our methods section. Just like any scientific paper, we have a methods section. This basically starts a virtual game. Also, say start fake game, test game. That's less judgmental. And we just won't run that yet. App 99. Oh, I always put parameters there. Okay. So we got the Sturt Killer. Great name. That's our player. That's our ID at the moment. So yeah, maybe what we want to let them do is have a choice now of if there's no game. Oh, and actually here I've got down here I've got like, this is the content if there is a game. That makes sense that I will also put something down here if there isn't a game. As mentioned before, we've got two options. We can create a game, or we can join one. Alright, now I can see that I've got create game and join game. So they should probably actually do something. So if you say at create game, at click equals create game. If you click this button, please create a game. At the moment, we'll just say S creates our previous style of game. Oh, cannot read. Oh right, I actually need to create the game. App.game equals new game. Create game. All right, look at that game spring into being. Very satisfying. All right, so we know that that works. What if we also have join game? Oh, and notice that like this UI for create game goes around. It goes away if I don't have, once I've created my game. All right, so create a game. Now we want to try out join game. So what does join game do when you click it? Maybe join a game. But we'll actually need a game for them to join. They'll need to like input stuff. So I can give myself an input value. And the value of that current input is, oh, you know what, I will do a vModel. And we'll call it game ID. What is my game ID, I hear you ask? Maybe that would be app.gameID. What game ID do I start with? Actually, let's see. So maybe my app.gameID, if I have a, well, maybe my app.gameID starts with nothing. Let's try that out. App 109. Ha, a comma. Alright, so I could join the game named nothing. This might be a good time to use our IO function. Should I call it room or game? Let's call it room. Alright, so a room is where there's an existing game and a bunch of people already playing. So io.joinRoom. Oop, I need to actually include this, I bet. Do I? Oh, right. Alright, so here's a join room method, and it calls, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and put this in an IO object because I kind of like the tidiness. Won't put the function space, and I'll have kind of a nice IO object whenever I need to, like, you know, add a unique identifier to something. Alright, so if I join the room, it says joining room undefined. That's great. But there's probably no room named undefined, so it'd be kind of nice to have a way to, like, type stuff in. If I join room then I will say, let us join the room that is at, what is it? App.gameID. But app.gameID is nothing. So if I say, like, here's some information, hopefully this is changed by game ID, and I can join that room. Now this is going to be kind of annoying if I have to type this in every single time. So what I can do here, this is a cheap trick. Let me find how I did that last time. Here we go. I'm going to steal some URL parameters. Hey look, I've got a query string, some URL parameters, and then I can say URL. We can have a URL for a room in our URL. So we can have, if the user goes to like this file / some stuff, then they'll automatically join a room of our choice. So you can say, okay, so when you load this game, the game ID is not undefined. It is the URL parameters .get room ID. I really need to decide whether it's room or game, and it is in fact now room. Okay. Everything is, wait, do I have any game ID? Ah, Screw that. Room ID. Okay, so I have this. What if instead of going to index.html, I do... Oh, I always forget this. Room ID, room equals test. Maybe? Question mark thingy equals thingy. Okay. Question mark thingy equals thingy. Wonder what I'm testing for. Oh, how about room? Notice that we are automatically going to the room test. So it's setting my room ID to be test. So if I put this one down here in our second player window, you notice that we also have room test. So yeah, now I can create a game with the ID of test, or I can join a room with the ID of test, but regardless, my ID is test. So now I might want to start making my peer.js, our peer.js connection. So the first thing we do with peer.js is we import their file, CDN, CDNs for everyone. And then I'm going to create a new peer. And I'm copying this directly out of the peer.js documentation. Alright, my ID is going to be, let's say my ID is app.roomID. And then when everybody starts, regardless of whether you're a peer or whether you're a guest or a host, you really definitely want to be having a, let's see, so when you initialize, even before we create the view, go ahead and create that peer. So our friend here has just created a peer named test. And this friend down here has also, let us see, that's what I get for making it very, very small. Are you creating a peer test? Yeah, it's also creating a peer test. There we go. Okay, so now we hopefully have enough information to try to make a connection. And before that, I'm going to get some more water. Alright, water got, let's go connect to a peer. Okay, so we've got a peer. Let's see. Oh, we've initialized a peer. Now we actually want to make a connection. So we've got a peer object. We can say when I'm created, I want you to list out my ID. This again, just stolen directly from the peer.js documentation. Okay, so my peer ID is test. I'm going to say give ourselves some information and an emoji because it's been like 3 minutes since I made an emoji and that's been too long. Oh, come on, let me make an emoji. There we go. Ha! Successfully created a peer. Alright, now I want to create a connection between these two. So let us see. So let's see. Oh, so I guess I don't, and not everybody wants to create a let's see, how am I going to tell people? It's very easy for the initial player to say, well, I guess we'll do it one way. We'll see if we can get the room to hear that somebody is trying to join it. So, let us see. When you try to join a room, we'll make a connection to this ID. And let's create a prefix just so we don't collide in their... They've got a kind of like... they've got a lovely... Like, Pure.js has a lovely online hosting service that you can use for free that is going to matchmake between different addresses. And then it's kind of like a... I don't know, when I was a little kid, I actually went to the back... There was a back of an educational magazine, and they had a service that allowed you to send off a letter to their service, and they would matchmake you with children across the world who wanted pen pals. And so I got a pen pal from Japan and a pen pal from Egypt, and I managed to only like write one letter to each of them. But it's kind of that same thing of like, all right, there's a service that initially will just matchmake two people and give them each other's addresses, and then it's up to them to send letters back and forth. So Pure.js has a service, but it needs a unique identifier, but everybody else is using the same service, and so we don't want our test identifier. I suspect a lot of people are asking for a connection to test. We want our own, so let's do const prefix equals... I doubt anyone else is calling their thing throwing hands. So our prefix is throwing hands, and our... I'm going to create our app.room ID. So this will create a peer. Let's see. I guess. Okay, so I guess if you are hosting a room, you want your peer ID. Okay, so this is actually creating a... If you are hosting, we want you to use your room ID as the peer ID. And if you are not... Let's see. Alright, so our peer ID is the room ID only if we're hosting. So if we are hosting, then yeah. Okay. So if we are hosting, then this is our room ID. Bleh, sorry, brain is soup. Oh, let's just keep going. Find out what happens. Alright, how about our ID? If we are not hosting, is our user ID. And if we are hosting, it's our room ID. Okay, that sounds good. So now we can create an ID. And maybe we don't initialize our peer quite yet. Actually, I'm going to make this easy for myself, and I'm going to add another URL parameter to say whether or not we're hosting. We would normally do this with just a piece of UI element, but I don't want to click over and over and over again. Yep. All right. Init peer is equal to if hosting Can I change true or false to a... I bet this is a string and not actually a Boolean. I don't want to do eval, that is extremely weird. Fine. Hosting is equal to true. Are you happy now, JavaScript? Alright, yep. So now we've got properly, like, this person is hosting. So when we create that their peer is throwing hands test, and their peer ID is throwing hands test. So this is our hosted room, and hopefully our friend down here, when we start, they are not hosting. Hosting is false. Their peer is throwing hands, blah 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 blah. All right. So now we have at least 2 different peer IDs, and I think that's useful. Because now we actually want to make a connection between them. So okay, so this says I have successfully opened this peer. Like, I have announced myself on the chain somewhere. So hopefully we can set so that we now have messages. So when we have a function, like when we've opened, we want to subscribe to messages. Where is this con object from? Start connection, receive connection. Oh, all right, so how about, all right, so when this peer receives a connection, we want to say, like, we've received a connection. And we'll print out this connection. Now we can also say when we receive some data, oh wait, sorry, this is, I'm just pasting a lot of this in. Okay, so this is, if we want to start a connection, we connect with our, okay, so if I want to start a connection, then I connect with, yeah, okay. So this is joining a room, we make this connection. And I will save the connection as io.con. What if I save it as something useful? All right. So this says I am joining a room. How about when I initialize the peer, if I am not the peer, I attempt to connect to this room. We'll just automate this. This one does not attempt to join a room. This one attempts to join a room and fails. Ah, why did you do that? Why is this such a weird, it's too small. Okay, peer is not defined, 41. Because I'm not saving peer. How about I say save io.peer? Successfully created peer. Successfully created a peer. Okay, and then this one attempted to join a room undefined. Why are you attempting to join a room? Oh, because I didn't tell you which room to join. And that is app.roomID. But we just like always try to join the app.room.id. All right, It is attempting to join the room throwing hands test, which is what we want. So yeah, let us see if we... I was kind of hoping we would receive a connection there, but I guess not. So it says IO'd up here to connect, room connection. We didn't receive a connection here. What if I recreate you? Successfully created peer. Maybe I need to join... You know what? I had better join the room after I make a peer. So yeah, if I've made my peer and now I'm going to do all this stuff here. Like, okay, if I'm not hosting, I've created my peer, I've opened the connection to the original server, and now after that I'm going to try to join a room. Oh look! I got a connection! That's very exciting. And look, it's even, oh my gosh, this is the best name. I'm so sorry. This is, Lilac Shart has joined the chat. So yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better name for creating this little social network. So yeah, we now have a peer. It's Lilac Shart. And then I could say like, okay, well, if we get a peer and we are hosting, if we get a peer and we are hosting, we could add them to our room. And let's go ahead and automatically create, like, we had our button to create the room, but now we can do this automatically. So when you are mounted, if... Ooh, you know, I'm going to save the hosting in here. That's good. No more init peer if hosting. You can say app.hosting. If app.hosting, if blah, 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 blah. All right. Oh, I actually need all this junk. Kids, yeah, this is setting the app that we're connecting with. All right, so hosting is equal to, where's our get URL parameter? Did I delete that? Whatever, we're good. Okay, so URL parameters, get hosting. And this should tell us whether or not we're hosting. All right, so if we are hosting, if we are hosting and we're mounted, I want to create the game. Otherwise, I want to go ahead and try to join that game. App 5. Oh, it's equal to true, comma. All right, this one goes ahead and creates the game. And this one should go ahead and attempt to join a game. All right. Oh, and this just, join room doesn't actually do anything. Except attempts to join that room twice. So yeah, I've got this person, and then this person attempts to join the room, so then we can hopefully add them to our players list. So we will no longer have fake friends, we're going to have liver fake friends. So no fake friends, just myself, and then if this person joins, I want to add them to as a player. Okay, so if somebody joins, how about if I'm hosting? All right, we've got a new player, app.hosting, app.game.addPlayer. And let's see, we've got throwing hands test. So how many letters are in throwing hands? I'm gonna say like 17. Let's see if this looks right. Alright, so it's like 14. Open-hearted is joined. Open-hearted is joined. Okay, we have our player name. And notice that open-hearted is now joined. This is very exciting. So now, hopefully, we can send open-hearted has joined, so we should send them a message welcoming them to the game. So we should also subscribe to data. So we've got our connection. I guess we make our connections two places. We make the room connection down here, and then where else do we make the connection? Peer.onConnection. Okay, so there's a connection up here and a connection down here if we received a connection. Okay, so what do we have here? Maybe I should actually say that we've got a... Should I just say one connection? Or should I say this is a connection to our guests? I guess because we'll have a bunch of connections to all of our guests. So, let's see. I'm going to also store this player connection, or guest connection. This is weird, but I'm gonna actually start setting up the player object as a player object that contains an ID, but also contains a connection to that object. So okay, so a new player is an ID and a connection, and I'm gonna quickly update a little bit of this. So for each player, player.id, player.id. Let's see. Well, let's see if that was enough. IO38. Connection dot... Okay, so there's no connection yet. So this is... We're going to add a new... we're going to do when you get data from... Alright, so if the guest connection gets data... So the guest has just told us something. Gotten a message from a guest, and that contains some data. And then I guess our other guest is we have our room connection. So when we have data from our room connection, I can't believe my brain is actually getting some of this. We have data from our room connection. We have a message from the room. The room has sent us some information. All right. Wow, this is very exciting. All right. Nope. Did I not join my room? Oh, guest connection is not defined. IO26. Aha. Calling it guest connection. Here we go. Oh, IO28 again. All right. Player joins. Puzzle 1 to 54. Why is the original player... Oh, the original player did not join as a special player with a connection. So let's say, where is that? App.js, join game. Okay, we add the player ID. They have an ID, but they do not have a connection. So no connection for them. That is how we know that they are a host. You can even say is host is true. So this player is a host. All right, so we've got our player. We've got Lilac Axe. And we've got Lilac Axe has successfully joined. So, okay, now I want to, let's try it when I make a choice. It's going to send that, or actually, we'll send a message sending them the original state of the game, because they might want to know that we're currently playing Palace of Time. So, hey, I see that you've joined my new game. Wouldn't you like to know what game we're playing? So maybe I should send them a message. So on this guest connection, I will guest connection.send. I guess I'm not sure what I'm allowed to send. So let's first start with just a message. So hopefully they'll get a message welcoming them to the game. All right, new players joined. Hopefully I have sent them a message. Nope. No message received. All right, so I have a guest connection that is a connection. Oh, I bet I have to make a connection. Okay, so this is a connection from a guest. I bet I need to make the connection to the guest. So maybe I need to say io.peer.connect back to the guest. Oh, maybe do you suppose? Let's find out. Let's fuck around and find out. io.peer.connect to guest connection.peer. We'll try this again. And if they get a strawberry with this one, we know it's the second message. So we'll try to send, on the guest connection, we'll try to send it to the special reconnected guest message. And also, hopefully, if we see that we've received a connection, we should see who's connecting to us. Right. So we've received a connection. Player joins. Received a connection from throwing hands. All right. So this is receiving a connection from our room. So this is our room connection. Got peer.connect. I should say guest send. Guest connection is waiting for data. Room connection is waiting for data. I really want there to be a message from the room. I'm going to be obnoxious with this and send them lots of messages. If somebody doesn't reply to you, send them continuous messages all the time. Set interval. I wonder if it says... Alright, so I've got a guest connection. Alright, so this isn't actually going to try to send the message until it receives a connection from up here. Alright, set interval. Oh, set interval. Interval. Attempting to message. You getting anything? Ooh. Ooh, ooh. It's getting a bunch of stuff from peer.js. Data channel on message. Are you getting too many messages? Set a timeout. Let's just send one. Right. Binary pack failure. Red index out of range. If it doesn't like emoji, I'm going to be very upset. Alright, so I've connected to my peer. When I get data from that connection, so this is like straight out of, alright, con.open. Ooh, wait, my bad. Alright, we have to wait for our connection to open, and then we can subscribe. I guess there's a lot of like waiting for things to open. And then maybe that means that we can't subscribe to the data yet from the guest. So that's okay. We're not going to get anything from the guest just yet. Maybe we can try, instead of connecting to a guest... Oh, yeah, so we're sending one to the guest. We're sending one to like our weird pseudo guest. Let's find out what happens. Attempting to message. Please respond. Attempting to message cybernetic. Come in cybernetic. Then we get a data from our room connection. Let's not create a new connection then. Let's just keep sending to the guest. We got a message! Okay, we got an emoji message from welcome to app. Oh, that's why I'm getting a thingy. Alright. Let's see if we can welcome ourselves to a possum story. Aha! We've got welcome to a possum story. Alright, last thing I'm going to do. Let's see if we can get an emoji or if this is our error. Heck yeah, let's do a surfer. Yep. Alright, pure.js does not like emoji. That is super sad. Alright. Can I do JSON stringify? Is that what we're going to have to do? Because if I want to send data, I'm going to have to stringify it anyway. How many times does it take me to type stringify? No, that's super weird. Okay, I'm not even sure what pure.js is having trouble with here, but it definitely does not like it when you have an emoji in that message. So I'm not sure what is the like. Yeah, I guess we could like try doing the emoji code. Like, I want to close this stream, but I'm not going to close this stream until I can send a gosh darn emoji. Yeah, not emoji code. Emoji code HTML. How about like this? App, emoji code. Open connection. Okay, we got our thingy. So what if we display that message? So like, how about every time we get a message, we display it to the screen? So we've got some messages. And now in our game content, for each message, add some MSG. Always a good choice. Alright, reload this. No messages yet. Reload this. No messages yet. Got a message. Oh, we should actually add that to our messages. IO. Come on. Last shot. Oh, and I bet I need to display that as HTML text. So v HTML is equal to MSG. So please try to re-render this object in here as the inner HTML in here. So that's the trick to getting HTML to render with jQuery. Vue. What language am I in? All right. Now I'm going to add that to app.messages whenever I get a message. IO. If I get a message from my room, especially, app.messages.push data. Reload. Reload. Come on, messages. I've got a message. It's got an emoji. Oh, we win. Okay. So yeah, this is the first step in, I definitely didn't get to it. Well, no, I got to a social network because people are sending messages to each other. So even if you, had this running on your computer, you should be able to like, not that I've released the code here, but you should be able to send a message to, the room throwing hands _test, and it would appear on, Trendgold 1862's, thing. So yeah, we've built the first half of a social network. The thing that I want to get going next time is, notice how I'm sending a shit ton of messages, just an awful lot of messages. Next, I want to get some hand tracking going, so that I can send hand tracking back and forth. Although I suppose before that, the next thing to do would be to say like, hey, if you've selected our, if we've gotten our emoji selected, I want to tell the other person about our emoji. I want to tell them actually about the whole JSON stringified version of this this current game state, and basically copy paste the game state across this peer-to-peer connection, to see like if I've got the user is the host is constantly getting the updated game state, but I want everybody else to get a stream of the game state as well. And then I want the user to get messages. Sorry, I want the host to get messages from all my guests, so I can tell when the guests have selected their guests at the emoji. So yeah, that is it for today. Thank y'all for joining me. This was a lot of fun. As usual, networking takes almost all the time, so thank you for staying with me through that, and I'll talk to y'all later.